Okay, I've hit the record button. I'm going to disappear, but I'll be sitting in. Have a
Hey,
good
thanks,
evening.
Rod.
Rod. Papillon and champignon.
Sorry, I'm gonna put me on mute for a minute. Jane said,
Take it away, Teresa.
how would you
How do
say
that?
yeah, I know. Ojala? Steph, do you see that?
I think the J
Sorry,
would be
I'm
silent, wouldn't it?
It's a huh sound.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to get
Can you hear
somebody
me?
in. Somebody can't get in.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Jane, how do you say that?
Ojalá.
Ojalá. Okay.
Ojalá.
Awesome.
Actually, I think I might have put an accent on there and that shouldn't be there. I can't remember. But it's, yeah, it's ojalá. It comes
Ojalá.
from inshallah in the Arabic.
I like it.
Those are like my favorite ones that don't have an exact translation, and then you're searching for it always when you're speaking in English, right? That, oh, if only I could say this.
So much, right? Like it some things just don't translate the same way, and you're like, I need this feeling.
Yeah.
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 All right. Do we want to give this a couple more minutes, or do we want to get started?
I'd say it's 11 o'clock. Let's
Let's get going.
rolling. Yeah.
All right. So welcome everybody to our second office hours for FSL and ELL remote learning.
Hello. Good morning.
So these are our contact information. Sorry. I'm Steph Wood. I'm an ELL support teacher.
I'm Teresa Lopatron, and I'm the ELL support teacher for the North.
And I'm Angela Cote, the languages consultant. Thanks for joining us today, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
So we wanted to start with some of the feedback that we got from last week, and just share a little bit of information, and just so that you know what we talked about and what people wanted to share.
Yeah. So the one that came out from the feedback, and I was looking through it and I could see value in it, was with those seesaw activities, adding the word French at the beginning of it will be a way to help people find activities that are relevant to them. Now, the other piece, there's two ways to go about this. There is a tagging option where you can tag your activity as, I believe it's called World Languages is the tag they have. So obviously using that tag so that when a person goes into Seesaw to search by world languages within the Lambton-Kent District School Board community library, they'll come up with all the lessons. But additionally, especially if we're talking for the content area subjects, so math, for example, you would tag it as a world language and math. But if a person is strictly looking, searching for math, by putting the word French at the beginning, it will pop out that way for people. And then I saw some people have already started that. So it's just an idea to help making the search easier. That was something somebody shared. Flippity seemed to have been a hit last week. So thank you, Corey, for sharing that with us. Lots of people, and I saw in the chat already today, people commenting on their use of it this week. So that's great. And then a question that came out that we're going to, I think we'll get to later, right, ladies, when we talk about talking a bit more.
Yeah, can I just stop you for a second? I'm going to need to stop sharing and reopen the presentation. I missed a slide.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go for it.
Let's see.
Oh, yes, we did.
We did. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We updated the slide presentation, but I already had it up all ready to go. So
yeah,
I apologize for the confusion there.
Yes.
So we will have our traditional territorial acknowledgement to get us going today.
Perfect.
We acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. These indigenous nations, known as the Anishinaabeg and Lenape, agreed through their ancestral languages to the mutual sharing of the land with obligations and responsibilities to the environment. Today, these responsibilities and obligations extend to all peoples.
Thank you.
Glad you caught that, Steph. That's an important
Sorry about that.
one. Yes, absolutely.
We did have a couple things that we were going to talk about here, but we can definitely wait until we get to the speaking slide to cover them.
Well, we can wherever, it doesn't matter. But one of the questions that did come up was, how do we support students who are anxious about talking in front of others? So we thought maybe today we can have a little bit of a conversation, including you guys in on it, on what are you doing to get students talking? And then I think this question lends itself to, what about those who are anxious about talking in front of others, including video and that? So if you guys are okay with that, let's come back to that one.
Sounds good.
The other one we didn't put on the slide, but that, we got a lot of feedback for was Kermit the Frog. It was a hit last week. I had some people email me after the fact. There was a lot of talk in the chat room. So I reached out to Sheila to see if she'd be willing to talk us through it a little bit more and give us some ideas of what she's doing. And she graciously has offered to join us. So Sheila, welcome.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad it sparked joy. That was the whole intent. He's kind of an infectious character, and what I have, although as a core French teacher, it's kind of geared to core French. I'm hoping some of the things embedded are applicable also to FI as well as ELL. Just some kind of big picture considerations for connecting with our students. So whenever you want me to go through that, I can. Do you want me to start that now?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, for sure. And what I'll do is I'll kind of breeze through it, and then if people have questions or comments, maybe we can do it at the end. It's about 7 or 8 slides, but it's going to go quickly, and hopefully it'll bring you a smile. So I'm just going to screen share right now, and hopefully you should be looking at the screen. Now, Ange, I only see my slideshow. Is that what I should be seeing?
We're not seeing it yet. Yes,
Okay.
you will see yours. But
Okay.
we're not seeing it yet.
All right, let me just come back again, and how is that?
That looks great.
Okay, there we go. We can learn anything as teachers, eh?
That's right. Roll us in and we'll figure it out.
So the title of this is called Le tout est plus grand que la somme de ses parties. So we're asked about favorite expressions to start our day, and that happens to be one of mine, which means, of course, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And whether you want to say that, or you want to say seeing the trees through the forest, or not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I guess the point here is being able to step back and see some important bigger picture pieces about what our students might need, and that's why I kind of came across Kermit. So just a simple approach to teaching core French. Just start with, and I know that all of us are aware of the phase 2 directive from our school board in terms of, especially if you are a core French teacher or a prep time teacher. And so you are playing very much a supporting role to the regular classroom teacher. and you're looking to do, rich activities and to maybe chime in weekly or bi-weekly, and just looking at those, that communication that we've had from our school board. So, because these are unprecedented times that represent tremendous change in daily routines and conditions, a lot of kids are feeling very unsettled. I know we were together last time, I talked about just an awareness that there's kind of an underlying untouchable trauma, even that some of us, and especially children, we know they feel it so much more. So just some important things that I hear all of my colleagues kind of gathering, whether it's talking to parents or talking to their other teacher colleagues, and one is to focus on the familiar, to review skills and strategies, making learning intentional. I think that Superintendent Hazard used that very word when he joined us last week, and manageable, and especially things that children can do as independently as possible and don't need parents' help, because it's one thing to step in with math, but I think the parents feel particularly ill-equipped to help their children when it's second language learning. So something that they can do already. Don't overwhelm, be flexible, and be willing to build slowly, and have faith that what you're doing will build, and that students are all living very different experiences, very much as we are, so to be considerate. So these are just some main bigger points that had come up. So it might be a little more about like this, if you can see Kermit on the left riding his bicycle steadily, and not like this. And if you remember the Muppets movie where he's riding with Miss Piggy, I think it's in Manhattan Park. Yeah, so it's a little bit of that. And I like these pictures as analogies. And as a core French teacher or a prep teacher, you might be feeling a little bit like Beaker on the left of your screen, and not so much like the classroom teacher. Miss Piggy is the way I kind of looked at it, because I was really struggling with finding my spot as a core French teacher, and how to come in effectively and to co-teach, and to not be too much, but also be willing to offer quality work, and just finding that sweet spot. So Kermit became the little sweet spot just for one of my classes. I do different things with other classes. And just to be said, I use this in a junior class, okay? So almost like Flat Stanley or Where's Waldo? And I've kind of highlighted in green some big ideas that I think can work for anybody, because I want to give comfort and joy to my students, okay? So on the first day, this was a picture I put up, and I had immediately a student respond to me in French. You can see below, he said, Kermit est assis avec des gens qui, parce qu'il les aime. So an error there, but a very earnest attempt. And so right at the bat, even though it might have been something I would do just for one day, I thought, oh, this is something that the kids might really like. And so we continued. So here are some other examples. So it's not assigned work. I do give a little assignment once a week. And I also, like you guys, have enjoyed Flippity and other resources like Kahoot and Lecture Enfant. So I don't assign this, but it shows the students that I think of them every day. And I think that's important no matter what you teach. I write the date each day en français, so it gives them a sense of routine that's familiar to them in the classroom. And I always offer them a question, and I try to give them prompts to get them writing or to get them speaking for vocabulary I know is going to be appropriate to them. So it did start very slowly. In the beginning, students were responding in English, or they were just saying, haha, that's cute, but no real learning engagement. And now I'm starting to see students responding more and more, and all en français. And I'd like to move from the writing now to the oral piece. So I'm glad that this has come up. Try to connect with what's important in their lives. So just something that no matter what we teach, now more than ever is probably very critical to help our students through this time. I also like to talk about their lives, connecting with pets or activities. Their homes right now are their universe, their entire world. And so, I saw a colleague who asked their students to make a fort where they would read independently, and then students shared pictures of them in their forts on Seesaw reading. And just to kind of give you that insight and let them offer that insight of their home is, it's nice for kids. And I've even had a primary teacher say, you know what, I like it because for those students I worry about a little bit, it gives me some insight into the safety and the setup of their home, and that it gives me some assurance as a teacher on that level as well. So Kermit va dehors avec le chat. The students particularly like this one. I also include mental wellness. So again, just a general approach, big picture approach. On this day, I asked them if they found they were on the screen more often and what they like to do off screen. And I gave them the ploy that I really needed their help to get Kermit off of Netflix because he was completely connected and glued to the television set. So there's a little ironic moment of Kermit the Frog watching the Muppets. I also prompt them en français to consider physical fitness. So they got a real giggle out of Kermit qui fait de l'exercice, qu'il aime le yoga. And mes élèves told me other things that they like to do for physical fitness. So even though we teach language, we also know that language is living and breathing, that it's a whole child, it's a whole student experience. So also continuing to get to know your students. I particularly have been in a new school. And so it's as a prep time teacher who used to be a classroom FI teacher, getting to know your students with so little time can be challenging. And it was nice to see that that could continue even online. So on this day, they told me about some of their hobbies, and that would have been the question prompt. And we celebrate things too, you know. Ici que tu vois que Kermit compost. So it was Joyeux Jour de la Terre that day. And coming to the end here, today I prompted my students with this picture. So Kermit qui joue un jeu, est-ce que Snoopy triche? So you can see in the green that, you know, trying to put that date up every day, giving them the caption, but then also giving them a question. And then they had a prompt. And so one of my students wrote back to me telling me about Monopoly. And I can tell that the sentence, the simple sentence, mon jeu préféré est le Monopole, is something she could construct on her own, but she probably went further and did some Google Translate and added that. And I'm not going to discourage that. I'm not going to give them a caliber of question that will cause them to have to Google Translate everything. I want them to use sentences and words that they already have some confidence with, but she wanted to add. And anyway, all to say that there's innumerable quality approaches. This was just one little thing that happened that is working, and it's and mostly it's making us happy. Sometimes it's about the gestalt, it's about the big picture, it's about the whole. But like I said earlier, you know, Cahoots, Lecture Enfant, Alain Le Linge, Chanson, and Lecture Enfant has been wonderful, especially for trying to, as you're co-teaching with the classroom teacher, connecting with things like social studies. You know, Lecture Enfant has so much on le Canada et les provinces, for example. And so I've been able to kind of support the classroom teacher with what they're teaching. So just to end, what I'd enjoy about this conversation between Kermit and my students, and I think this is the biggest thing for me, is it gives them a positive feeling about second language learning, and that's key. So it may be simple exposure for some, active for others, really active. And you know, it's not all of my students who are on. I think we're all experiencing that too. It's some, not all. Take what you can get and just, you know, work with the ones that are there. But they know every day Kermit's going to say bonjour les amis. So there you go, in a nutshell. That's Kermit. I hope that it's in any way inspiring to any of you. And it doesn't have to be Kermit. I've taken little Playmobil characters out to the garden and taken pictures of them. But toys seems to be a really awesome entry point for kids. It's familiar, it's comfortable, and there you have it. Okay, so merci Kermit.
Merci, Sheila.
And I'll stop the screen share there.
Awesome.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your fun things you're doing. And I couldn't agree more that language learning, we really just want it to be a positive experience for them. That's the root of it, right? That without that, those good feelings around it, it's hard to make progress. So way to go. Does anyone want to turn on their mic? And if you have any questions or anything for Sheila, now would be a great time.
So fun facts, at school I actually used stuffies in class. It didn't make it home with me. So I am sitting around thinking about what do I have at home that I can use. So I'm actually looking at doing short videos with my rubber ducks. Yeah, a friend pranked me one year and gave me like 8 rubber ducks. I'm like, really? But I feel like I could actually like make a set up fake classroom or like a restaurant scene with them and just like see how that goes.
Put them to good use. I think that the as much as we like to see into their little home, their universes and their home, I think that our students also really love connecting with us personally. So your rubber duckies. So even though there is a plethora of incredible online resources, I don't think anything can replace a teacher reading a story out loud or singing a song with their ukulele for music class, that there's that human connection that we know is so important to kids. So, and when they see that this is about you and your rubber duckies, they feel connected to you. So I think that's great.
Thank you, Sheila. This is so good. I just want to put this out to the group. How could we tweak this for maybe our more advanced language learners, right? So Sheila, I think you said you use this with your core French junior students.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see ways that this could be adapted for our older students, or our, not necessarily older, our more advanced linguistic students. I just wanted to kind of put it up to the group, either in the chat or if you wanted to unmute. How could you see this working with other students, other age groups, or other language levels?
I'm wondering if looking at an older group in French immersion, perhaps you could use this to challenge them to create their own mini video at home, like using characters. They wouldn't directly be in the video, but they would be using their voices and creating like a mini scene.
Absolutely, yep.
Stop motion might be fun too. Like if you could do stop motion videos and then use their voice with all of their little characters. From an ELL perspective, I love the sentence starters and that consistent language with the assignment every time so that they know the structure of things and they know the structure of the language. And then maybe providing them just the frame for the sentence depending on how early they are in terms of their English language acquisition.
That's great. Well, thank you again, Sheila. I wasn't anticipating such an amazing presentation when I asked you to come to share. So thank you for that. That was great.
That's my pleasure to share with everybody.
All right, Steph, do you want to bring us back to the presentation?
Yep. One sec.
Yeah.
All right. Am I back on?
It's going, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So we wanted to know what you're doing. So how are you getting your students to speak?
I'll go. This week I had some of my like grade 4s up to grade 6s. We did a pet unit last year. So I thought, well, that's kind of prior knowledge. Why not put that out there again? So I did a little example and then they were either making like a pic collage or they could just do it right in Seesaw to share their pet. And because I'm the only one seeing it, they almost all of them, well, not all of them, but the ones who are responding, were able to share about their pet, saying like, j'ai un chien, mon chien s'appelle Toto, whatever it was, and then also describing the colors and the sizes of their animals, all because it was something that we'd already done and they were very familiar with the sentence starters. So I found having given them something that they already know made them confident to share that with me again.
Absolutely, that's key, right? They need that vocabulary. To start throwing something new at them at this time would be quite overwhelming for a lot of our students. And at this time, never do we want them shutting down, right? So without you there the whole time to be able to offer the supports you would typically do in the classroom, review is the best way. It keeps the language alive, it keeps them using it and familiar with it.
And plus they're at home with their pets all the time. So they were all eager to jump in and do that right away, so.
Yeah.
I'll go. So I find my students, especially on Google Classroom, are getting picky choosy about their workload. I don't know if any of you guys are experiencing that too, but the students who are participating, they really like the fact that they see me before I get to see them. So I'm always posting videos of myself. I don't like how I look or sound on camera, but I do it anyways. And I post a video of my instructions, but then I'm also showing a massive example of how you can do it in different ways and just encouraging them to be creative. So for example, with Seesaw, I posted a video for my like 1-2s to show me 1 to 10 things or 1 to 20 things that they wanted to challenge to around their house. And then they had to count them in French and then tell me what colors they picked. So I did a video. I had like, I think I grabbed 12 Easter eggs of different colors and just put them on my desk and videotaped myself counting them in French. And I told them what colors they were in French as well. And I said, show me what you can do. And then I've been getting some responses back. I had some kids choose cars or paper clips. And it was kind of cool.
Awesome.
I know one of the things, one of the questions that came up in the feedback form was, what about those kids who are anxious on video? I know often in the language classroom, we use technology to help those students who are anxious to speak in front of the group. And we see the technology as a way to allow them to practice and re-listen and repeat and that sort of thing to help those kids that are anxious in the live situation. But now what we're finding, some of our, or at least some are encountering kids who really don't want to be on video, who maybe were okay in the classroom speaking up and participating, but really don't want to be on video. So that came up as a question. So I was wanting just to put it out to the group. What ideas do you have that we could do to help these kids?
Well, if you're using Seesaw, you don't necessarily have to have your face showing because you have just the voice recording option, whether it's even a comment underneath something or like comment voice recording over top of a picture or something like that, which is what most of my students have been doing.
Right. Yeah. So just removing the visual part, just using the audio more.
And that's why I tell my students too, especially with Google Classroom, like, you guys don't have to be in the video. Be creative. And I mean, you can show me stuff and talk while you're showing it to me. You don't actually have to be in it, but it's still nice to hear your voice and stuff like that. But I had one kid who got super creative and found a green screen app on their iPad, and they put a picture of the thing they're talking about in the green screen while they were in front of it. It was amazing. So
there you go.
Yeah, so I encourage my students to be creative, but I'm like, if you really don't want to be on camera, you don't have to be. Just put like an image, or I had one kid put a bed sheet in front of the screen and then they talked. So
that's awesome. Wear a mask, whatever. Be creative.
Hold up a stuffy in front of your face. You've got Kermit. Filters can help too. So if students are using an Apple device, there's the app Clips. And so they can videotape themselves and then apply a filter on top. And it takes away a lot of the features of the face, which make them feel a little bit more comfortable. Or holding something up in front of their face while they're talking, or as you mentioned, just the voice recording in Seesaw or in Voice Recorder or in some sort of memo software might allow them to feel a little bit more comfortable about that. The nice thing with the asynchronous learning that we're doing is that students have the material and they can take the time to think and even write down what they're going to say before they say it, which can sometimes help them feel more confident about what they're going to say. It's a strategy we recommend for ELLs in the classroom, just to give them that extra processing time in a second language. But here our students have it right now, like at home, they can think about what they're going to say before they say it, which is a really nice opportunity for them.
Steph, one thing I've been using is Sock Puppet. So I'll start my week off with a good morning greeting every Monday for my class, both classes. And I don't prefer to video myself and talk to them, but with Sock Puppet, they know it's still me. And I get to be the silliest sock puppet I feel like, and it's great.
And Jane, what grades do you have that you're doing that with? Because I know they're not little ones.
No, grade 6 and 7, but they get a real kick out of it. So
that's great. Yeah. It's amazing the things that even our older kids get into.
There's also an app called Chatterpix where you can take a picture and then you draw like a line through the mouth and then it makes it like block talk. It's hilarious as well.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun.
Gotta look that one up.
I have grade 1-2 French immersion, And I started really small with an activity that we actually have done in class all the time, and it's one of their favorites. It's anyway, it's from Pinterest, but it's Le Pot qui Parle. So it's a different prompt every day, each month. So what I've started doing is just uploading those questions and giving them the opportunity to respond. So I encouraged at first for them to either write or to voice record, that we're going to move into more lengthy responses and more elaborate responses. So I started really small with something that they absolutely knew and looked forward to, just to keep that routine with them. And then we're going to elaborate on that and just help them kind of ease their way into it. Most of them are choosing to do voice recordings. So I think that mine are okay with that. And then with my own son, he's in grade 2. What we do for his oral responses is that we rehearse them first. So I think that maybe it's something that we should remind parents that it is okay to do, in case some of these things seem so obvious to us, but because we do it all the time. But so my son and I rehearse, and then after that we write down some key words, and he has that in front of him as he does his little chat or presentation, so that he knows kind of what order he wanted to do it in. So those things are little tools that can help.
I like the idea, Steph, of reminding parents, because it's things that we do naturally, we think of, but not necessarily the parents are. I know I'm experiencing it with my own kids, that like they hate the video. They absolutely hate it. And I'm struggling with why, because they're not what I would call shy kids. They're usually willing to participate in that in class, but they dread the video. So it does take a little bit of prep, like on my part, to like kind of coach them through it to get to the point where they're like, okay, I can do this.
There's a question in the chat for Steph. What was the name of the site you're using?
Me?
I think so.
Oh, it's a resource I bought on Teachers Pay Teachers. It's Le Pot qui Parle.
So it's daily prompts. It's oral prompts is what it is.
Yeah, I think I had to buy it. I probably got it when it was cheap, but yeah, it's daily prompts. And so then I don't have to come up with them, but really it's just simple sentences. So what I'm currently doing is the month that I've chosen to do is the one where it's just invent a sentence using. So I give them a word, and it's just invent a sentence using avion. And I get all kinds of sentences. And then at first I accepted any sentences whatsoever. Then I said, okay, here are the sentences you may not say. You may not say, j'aime les avions. And I gave them some examples of the super simple ones. And I found that when I did that, the students started to go a bit further. They would tell me that they would like to go in an airplane to such and such a destination, or they've never been to an airplane and they hope to do that one day. So they are building now that I've set some more strict expectations, I guess, higher expectations for them.
Anyone else doing anything in their rooms to get their students to speak? Teresa, did you? Oh, sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. One thing I did with French and art, it is for my senior kids, it was called the Burning House Project. You might not want to call it that with the little kids, but if you Google the Burning House Project, you can get pictures of other people who've done it, and in it you imagine that your house is burning down, and that you can only save 10 things. What 10 things would you save? And so it shows you how they want to have a picture of it, like a nice background, some interesting background, and then the 10 objects all laid out. And then the kids have to talk to you about that, why they would save those things. And if you, can one of you call that up and show it? Like Angela, you know how to do that. Could you call up the Burning House Project on Google and just get a picture of it so people can see? And you'd want to show them a couple examples, but you want to also see what they are first, because there's some that are inappropriate. But even if you just Google image the Burning House Project, you'll get some. And then they show you don't have to say the house is burning, but you could say, what are your 10 favorite things that you would want to save or take with you if you had to move somewhere. and then they lay it out really cute, and then they talk about it. Then they're not on the screen. So here's
This what you're talking about, Sharon?
Yes, that's it. So 10 things that you would want to save if your house were burning down, but you don't have to say that if you had to move or something.
Right.
Suddenly.
But it gives them a speaking prompt. It's almost a provocateur, right? That
Yeah,
gives them
just like
something to talk to anchor their conversation.
Just like
And I
the
could
pen.
see you could do this with lots of different like topics, right? That what would you do if you were, I don't know, what would you want on a stranded island or whatever? Like you could go lots of different directions with this, I could see.
Mm-hmm.
Or even for your earlier students, they could find 10 things of a certain color, or right, that they could then talk about.
That's a great idea. I love it for the little one.
Awesome. Thank you. Lots of ways to get our kids talking, right? I mean, we do it all the time in the classroom, and so we have those ideas. We just have to try to figure out how to make it work remotely now.
Teresa, did you want to share?
Sure. Okay, so this is a website that my daughter in FDK, she's SK, uses. So here we go. So this is the website. So we play it.
5, 4, 3,
Can you hear it okay?
1.
Yep.
I can't hear it from my side. So then you pick one on the bottom. So we always go to this one. And then it gives you options to pick 1, 2, or 3. And then you press play.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Et toi?
And then it just prompts them to where to go. So press that, and the bird comes and talks.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Repeat what you hear. Select the button to begin.
Prompts them, and then
Répète ce que tu entends. Appuie sur la touche pour commencer.
Come on.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
And then it asks the child to talk. And then it just goes through.
Ça va bien, merci. Et toi?
And so my 5-year-old had no problem navigating through this and doing it herself. And then it asked it, put it in order. So I can't hear it right now. So
Bonjour.
And then you would bring it
Bonjour.
up, and you go forward.
And it works through a variety of levels that can continue to increase the level of the language. Definitely a primary resource, I would say, for core French or our early French immersion students, for sure. So that's just recently released by the New Brunswick Ministry of Education. And perhaps some of you are familiar with the researcher, FSL researcher, Leo James Levesque. He is one of the authors of that resource. So brand new out, but definitely worth checking out.
Free to use right now, yeah.
Free to use, and you don't even need to sign up for an account or anything.
Nope.
It makes it easy for parents. You just click and away you go.
And she does.
The link is in the chat. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say she does it on her own. She gets on there. But I was going to get her to do it for you, but she then didn't want to present. So but she does do it on her own, and she does speak back to it, and it's really good because she can keep playing it if she doesn't have it correctly, and she can hear it. So that's how we do it.
So the name of it is the French Language Opportunities for Rural Areas Program, or FLORA, and it's from the New Brunswick Ministry of Education.
Yeah. And you can play around with stuff, or like Ange said, there's lots of options in there for older grades as well. I don't know how high it goes, but there's other.
It's pretty lowish level, definitely beginner level. I would say primary French immersion, probably not much beyond that.
Yeah.
Junior core French, but language level, it would be appropriate. I'm not quite sure of the content itself. It's a little bébé, perhaps.
Okay, that's another good word.
It just conveys so much meaning.
I'm just going back to the chat because we have a few people that gave some other ideas for oral conversation. Was around posting a picture and asking kids to respond to it. So what do you see? I mean, it can be as simplistic as what do you see for our entry-level language learners to as complex as you want it to be for our more advanced speakers, and they can tell a story that goes with the picture.
And to scaffold that activity, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the picture word induction model, but you can dig deeper into that if you were interested. It's an ELL strategy that we recommend a lot, looking at a picture and then providing the vocabulary and then some of the verbs and adjectives that would be used to talk about the picture, so that the students have some of that vocabulary already before they start to write about a picture or talk about a picture. And there's lots of great websites that show how that strategy works, if you wanted to look a little bit deeper into that.
And Parson said she had her primary classes listen to a number song by providing them with the link, and then a game to reinforce review, and then ask them to find objects at home that they could record themselves in a video or orally counting those objects. Someone chose toy cars, candy, Lego, etc. And some even sang this song. That's awesome.
All right, should we move on?
Yeah, go for it. I'm just gonna keep, you keep going, and I'm just gonna look back at the chat, make sure we didn't miss anything.
Okay.
So we also wondered if any of your students have participated in any virtual trips while they're learning at home. Oops. So we thought we'd bring this up, maybe that you haven't had a chance to try out any of the virtual opportunities, or maybe they're doing some of those in another part of if it's their homeroom teacher who has assigned them to maybe go and visit somewhere or see something. Oops, Teresa.
Yes.
You were going to share about one of the local resources that we have for virtual field trips.
Right, it's the St. Clair Conservation Area. They've just opened up a bunch of tours, and they put them in French now. They're available in French as well. So did we have that?
I'm putting the link in the chat right now.
Okay. And if you go there, the one I looked up, I can't remember offhand right now, but it was pretty neat. And I think there's quite a few. Did you check it out too, Laura? There it is.
Yeah, I did. So it's, sorry, the links, it is not a link to a website. They're each individual links to Google Docs. So you may want to copy and paste that link, because I looked and I couldn't find it linked to their website in any way. It was emailed to us. So for those of you who aren't familiar, St. Clair Conservation Area does run field trips for students all the time, usually with a science environmental link. Focus, I should say. And so these are all their pond, for those of you who are familiar with them. They have a Pond Pals series that they do, where the kids, typically when you would go, they'd get to wear their rubber boots and away they go, collecting animals and little things from the pond to check out. So this is a virtual version of that, and they have them obviously in English, but they have translated many of them into French. So definitely worth checking out. It's very exciting.
The really nice thing about having a virtual trip where they can see what it is they're talking about is you can use it to support maybe a literacy activity. If they might find some of the vocabulary challenging, in order to really understand what it is that they're reading or learning about, having that visual and video for them to connect those new vocabulary words to pictures that they may not necessarily have already in their own schema, can allow them to understand things a little bit better. Give them a better picture, give them a picture for a word that they may not know.
Corey, I saw you posted in the chat room about Google Expeditions. Would you be able to speak to those?
Sure. I didn't use anything in this remote learning situation we're in now, but last year in probably May, June, it was a great time just to get Google Expeditions. You can for tours of anywhere. We did some about Paris, and there's all these tours set up where they just click the next information icon, it'll tell a little bit about it. Show beautiful images, and you could probably follow that up with some oral questions or maybe a Google form with some multiple choice questions, kind of like a little cultural quiz. But Google Expeditions is great. You don't need anything. You just need your Google like login and whatever device that works on anything.
That structuring it is really important, right? What's the purpose for going there? What are we doing while we're there? And then what are we bringing back to talk about?
Well, if you really want to create a big authentic experience, you can book your plane ticket over. You can fill out an application as to should I be chosen to go on this trip, book a plane, find your hotel, go to a French restaurant. I mean, you could really structure a huge authentic experience with that.
It's a great idea.
Oh, that's really cool.
It's a great idea. I hope someone will do that. That is cool.
Lots of opportunities to build in oral, both listening, speaking. There's lots of opportunities with a task like that, for sure. Someone mentioned in the chat some French cultural stuff, and so I threw some links in there that I was already looking at. Sammy shared something for Paris. Just remembering our intercultural awareness expectations, here's a chance to really take a look at some of those things together. And like you said, Steph, giving the kids a purpose for the research. What are they looking for? And keeping it open enough that we don't want, again, it to become a big translation activity for our families, but it might be as simple as, why would you like to go visit here? Or where would you like to visit and why, right? Like give them a couple options, but keeping it open enough that it's accessible to all of our students. There's an entry point for everyone. Jane's going to investigate Field Trip Friday. Love it.
I'm just looking in the chat. There was a question about Google Classroom and adding voice. There is a way to do that. So I'm just looking. Sorry, I'm trying to find it in here. So is it Ali? I can get back to you on that question and tell you exactly how to do it. So I'm thinking you would pre-record. Steph, I'm trying to think offhand, but I've got to get it in front of me.
Teresa, do you know, was it addressed in any of those Google sessions that we can maybe?
I'm pretty sure, yes. Yeah.
Okay, because I see someone else who's also interested in learning more about it. So
if you're just, yeah, sorry, we have the slides one in the Google Suites frequent, the slides presentation. It's embedded in there. So we can add the bit.ly to that. I can find the bit.ly for you and put it in the chat.
Okay.
Thanks, Teresa.
No problem.
I was just going to also bring up the website.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'm still finding it. Just to remind everyone where those tools can be found.
Are you going to share that, Angela?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say I really appreciate everybody coming and sharing all of their ideas and jumping in and letting us know what you're doing. It's wonderful.
So just as a reminder that this website has been developed for your use. And under tools here is where you can find, I'm not sure if any of you, or hopefully some of you were able to participate in those sessions we had. Was it week one? I don't know. The weeks have been flying by. But wait, we were first starting down this road. So here are the Google Suite sessions. that if you just want a refresher, or if you're looking to see what new features you could try out, there's all of these here to check out, as well as for Seesaw. So just to be able to continue to develop your own skill set using those platforms. But we will try to get you a more specific answer to your question. Or did you find it, Teresa? Or
yeah, I found the Bitly slide, so I'm going to put the link to the Bitly. If you put this Bitly into the search, but make sure not into the Google part, into the actual top search, it'll pop up the whole presentation, and it's all about Google Slides and how to embed everything in there that you would need. So okay. I'm just putting it in the chat right now.
All right. So I see Colin seems to be asking the same thing. How do you add voice to Google Classroom? Which session is that in? So we'll have to try and find that answer for you, unless, do you know off the, because you were part of that, weren't you, Teresa?
Yeah, that was our team. I'm pretty sure it was all in slides.
Okay. So that'll all be in the Bitly then you're showing, you're sharing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and the other one we did was, let me just double check with my, so we did Google Forms, Google Slides, and then we did the Google Meets. So that's what we covered. So it would be in the slide section. It's just double checking. There we go. But if you have any questions, please email me and I can get you the answers. If there's anything, if you're having a hard time getting on there.
So making sure that we're staying on time and that we're ending on time. I'll just go back to our presentation. So we wanted to give you some time to talk about anything else that you have going on, any questions that you have, any ideas that went super well this week that you wanted to share. Oops. Sorry.
I remember seeing back in the chat, I just want to bring it up because I know we didn't address it, but I thought it was a neat idea. And I can't remember who it was, so if you feel comfortable speaking up, there was a couple of people talking about pizza activities, and it seemed kind of neat. So if you're comfortable, whoever that was, we're just trying to find it again.
Is it? I know that's the thing with the chat. You gotta
you quickly lose track. Hi.
Hey, I was one of the one that posted about the pizza, and I think there was somebody else. But we had started our pizza unit before our break, and they were looking forward to making pizzas in class. So I thought I'd continue with it. And what I asked them to do is I gave them the song that Etienne sings. I gave them the link to YouTube, and I had them refresh their memories because they knew the ingredients, they knew the vocabulary. So I thought I'd start with, okay, go to your family, ask them, you know, which of these ingredients, make a list, which of these ingredients does your family want on the pizza? I said, if you have some picky eaters, then, you know, maybe make 2 pizzas. So then I had them ask them in French, and then they were to collect the ingredients that their family members had chosen, and they were supposed to report back to me. And I said either an audio recording or a video recording of themselves holding up each ingredient and telling me sur la pizza il y a, and they did it. Like I'd say half the class did it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Very simple, but yet they could relate to it. So,
and authentic, right? Like this is an experience they would possibly encounter in real life, the whole ordering, that practice of ordering and taking orders. And so that's great. Authentic learning task.
I was thinking next week, then I'd have them start to brainstorm or call back, you know, the actions you would do, like couper le pepperoni, râper le fromage, things like that. And then they could start to do that. And then maybe eventually be able to carry out the entire process of making a pizza on video if they're comfortable with it. So just an idea. And yeah, so that way they kind of feel like, you know, we've carried through on our pizza unit.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Someone added, you could do that with a salad too, which is great. Absolutely. Probably lots of things. The more real, what is it called? Realia? When you teach real experiences, or that's what we do with our ELLs when we try to give them real things to look at and then speak the language. It makes it easier for them to understand, and then they
So
own
what
it.
did you call that, Teresa?
Called Realia, I think. Yeah.
So we refer to it as, in French anyways, authentic tasks.
Yeah.
It's more the using real items as opposed to, like, often we give kids cartoon pictures of
Right.
things, and those aren't necessarily the best picture for them to build in their head of what the thing is. So we want them to know that a fan is a fan as opposed to like a cartoon. That's not a good example because it looks the same as a cartoon. But
for example, food would be a good one because you can smell it, you can taste it. It's like you're using your senses. So once they can use most of their senses, then it's going to absorb better, right?
Touch it and feel it, and
touch it, feel it, smell it, eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple modalities. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Slime. Oh, slime. Parents' nightmare. Kids make it all the time.
Procedural writing, though, it's a great connection. Something fun they would do. It's home. Yeah. They're doing it anyway, so let's just embed the language into it.
I had some of my ELLs, I'm like, find 5 things in your kitchen that you don't know what the word for is in English. And they could do that in French as well, right? Find 5 objects, and I don't know what these are. Find out what the word is, and then tell us what they do.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at least for the French, reading the labels and comparing them, that like what is like, well, there's often big differences in what is said in English than in French, and why would that be, and that sort of thing. Right. Thinking our chat box is quieted down there.
So I'll go through our last couple slides, make sure we're ending on time. This is our link for the remote languages. The session is taped today, so it will be available to rewatch if you wanted to go back and listen again. Or if you heard something that you thought somebody else might find helpful, you'll be able to send them to this session to find it.
And we do really appreciate if you have those questions or things you'd like us to speak to next week, by filling out that form. It just gives us a little bit of time to prepare. And I mean, that's how we got Sheila involved, because there was some feedback on that, as well as the whole addressing our kids with anxiety. So things like that, that we know that questions you have and you're wondering about, take a moment to fill it out. It's honestly super quick and easy. Or if either anyone out there has something they'd like to share, anything you talked about today, or something else that you feel you have going on that's going well for you, we'd reach out to one of us, and we'd love to have you share it with us next week.
And so many of the things that you're doing could be scaled for FSL or for FI or for English language learners in the classroom. So when you're sharing ideas, if it's coming from you as a FSL or an FI teacher, those are wonderful things for us to share with our English classrooms for their ELLs, because you have so many wonderful activities and ideas and ways for students to experience language.
Yeah, it gives everyone ideas. Like the chat saying, everyone's getting some great ideas. That's wonderful. That's what
we're hoping.
Yeah, this is what this chat is all about: getting ideas and sharing and what's working.
And I will encourage you again to reach out to participate in some of those other sessions that are happening throughout the week. Although they're intended for our English language classrooms, there is so much transfer that can happen, that you guys are the creative ones. You'll hear an idea and it'll spark something in you, and then you can take it from there. And we can always just discuss it back here on Friday. Like, here, this is what I heard. How can we make this work in an FI class or in a core French class? So check out those other sessions as well.
Mm-hmm. And again, thank you so much, all of you, for coming to join us today. We really, really appreciate your input and your feedback and your ideas. They're awesome.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.